So, I mean, you said that you've been in the industry obviously for a couple decades. What technology is still around? Like, what has stood the test of time, and what new things and exciting things have come up in that time?
Yeah, I mean, I would say robots, have by far, stood the test of time. The one thing that I would say that we're seeing stand the test of time, but at the same time is changing, is how we're digitally adopting technology in manufacturing. So for a long time, manufacturers on the floor, they would create a piece of custom automation machinery, and they would have a PLC, a programmable logic controller, which would basically be its code on how we make this machine run. For decades, all these individual machines were siloed, where basically we would never know what's actually happening to that machine unless we walked up to that machine, talked to the operator, and said, hey, how many parts have you run this hour so far? Have you had any scrap? Have you had any errors? It's still making the components, but what we're seeing changing through that time is more and more companies are wanting better digital information on what's happening on the floor. Right? Because if manufacturers can't act now and they're trying to act from something that happened 2 weeks ago, they're never going to be successful. They're never going to drive productivity moving forward in a competitive base. So we're seeing more companies taking the existing assets that still exist on the manufacturing floor from 30 or 40 years ago, and they're driving digital solutions for this. So basically, they're taking the individual equipment on the floor that's siloed, bringing up to an OT network, combining that, working with an IT network solution, and now all of a sudden I have real-time visibility on all the equipment that's happening on the manufacturing floor. And there's a bunch of different softwares that will plug into that, from MES to SCADA to ERP. But what's really exciting about that is we can drive better productivity out of existing infrastructure that's on the floor without having to invest millions of dollars in new physical assets. And I think that's the biggest thing that I always tell manufacturers, to say, hey, we want to grow, we want to be more, we want to do better. I say, what can you do with what you have now, but digitalizing it?
Right.
What manual processes are you using in Excel that should not be being done in Excel?
I'm glad that you said that. We talk about how bad Excel is every time, because of course we are, we have a manufacturing software, so and a lot of our customers are coming from Excel. Like, that's just the way it is, right?
Exactly. Did you ever watch Scooby-Doo when you were growing up, and they capture the villain and they pull off the mask? And so the meme or the comic is, when I talk to manufacturers and say, hey, what manufacturing software do they have? I say, we have manufacturing software. And I pry a little bit more. What is your manufacturing software? And I pull up the hood. I take off the mask, and there's Excel. And I'm like, that's not manufacturing software, And so trying to get these companies to understand that while Excel got you somewhere, it's not the tool that you need to be using to drive productivity on the floor. It's not a software that's scalable. It's not a software that allows you as a company to really have the interaction with the human that needs to happen on the floor, right? If I'm going out there, I want to be able to understand, why is my first shift 27% more productive than my second shift? Why are these workers here better trained on running this equipment than these workers over here? How can I better understand the data that's being presented in front of me to be more productive? And I think at the end of the day, that's where we're seeing more and more companies. And that's what I was doing after I left my job at Industrial Control, working for the automation distributor. I went to go work for a systems integrator for 3 years. And so that's what we really helped companies on, was modernizing existing infrastructure on the floor, digitalizing their manufacturing processes, helping roll out manufacturing software that's really designed to, one, be a very good ROI when it comes to already leveraging existing assets, but making them smarter, being able to take data and do something with the data. Right. I think that's the other biggest struggle, is a lot of times manufacturers say, well, I have all the data I want, I just don't know what to do with it. Being able to go out there and get data and create actionable data
leverage that data
is really what we're seeing, manufacturers doing. So what's standing the test of time? The equipment, but what's changing? digitalizing those processes to make it so companies can be a lot more productive on the floor.
What about customers' needs? Like we talked a lot about like how the industry itself is changing. What about customers? Have their needs been changing over the course of the last couple decades?
Yeah, this is a perfect segue from that conversation on digitalizing, right? When we come out of the pandemic in 2020, the supply chain was a mess, right? We didn't, to say it nice, it was a mess. We didn't know where things were being manufactured at the end of the day. We thought they were being manufactured here, but that was actually a part that was being then sourced from 1,000 miles away,
right?
That was being over here, that had to come here. It was a nightmare. So what we're seeing now coming from a lot of companies is more companies want to have better visibility on the entire supply chain that's coming in there. And that's why we're digitalizing so many stuff, right? Because we're going out there and we are a tier 1 automotive company. It's not that we just want to know where the tier 2 components are coming from. We want to know where are they getting their components from, because all of a sudden, if you go out there, we have a supply issue. There was the stories of, how there was like 20,000 cars at a GM lot that couldn't be shipped because of one little chip that they were missing, right. So they were holding $80,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 cars back for a $12 chip.
Oh, Jesus.
Because of the supply chain issues. Yeah. So what we're seeing now is manufacturers want a lot more visibility on this entire supply chain. And I think as well as manufacturers and companies are a lot more, I would say, aware of the value that a person brings to the manufacturing floor, where I think for a lot of times humans were very much looked at as a number, rather than as an individual. And so what we're seeing now is companies they're leveraging and seeing the value of the importance of a human worker a lot more. And that's why we're seeing today more companies that are leveraging automation to retain the worker rather than replace it, right? We need to keep people in manufacturing. We're not trying to replace people out of manufacturing.